Yeah, we gotta talk about all the controversy and chatter around Popstep because it's getting weird. But before we do, minasan konnichiwa. Hey everyone, it's Aaliyah with Beyond the Frame, YouTube's #1 resource for everything behind the scenes of your favorite films, TV shows, and anime. And today, we are diving into the debate surrounding one of my favorite anime franchises, My Hero Academia Vigilantes. In today's video, we're discussing Popstep and the reasons her outfit design is causing a rift among fans and why this whole thing feels a bit uncomfortable. Plus, I'll tell you what the actress voicing Popstep has to say about all this, but don't worry because we'll also go behind the scenes to uncover some little-known facts about Popstep, so stick around for that. But with that being said, let's get into it. So, I've been seeing a lot of comments about this lately. I actually released a short about this also called What Happened to Popstep, which you can check out after this video. I'll drop a link below. But that short helps showcase the really interesting debate happening online. Now, I'm assuming most of you already know Popstep, aka Kazuo Hanayama. She's one of the main characters of My Hero Academia Vigilantes, the spin-off manga and anime that dives into the lives of underground unofficial heroes. Popstep's personality is loud, chaotic, and very fun. She's definitely earned her spot as a beloved fan favorite, which might explain why there's so much controversy surrounding this character. Here's the root of the problem. While the manga never officially stated Popstep's age, she's drawn wearing a middle school style uniform, which is similar to the one my middle school friends used to wear when I lived in Japan. Then, based on the manga as well as a few other miscellaneous facts, most readers have placed her age between 14 to 15 years old, and yet, her vigilante outfit is one of the most revealing designs in the entire My Hero franchise. Her costume is supposed to represent the opposite of her shy, insecure self. It's part of her transformation into a bold, confident performer, but instead, what fans saw was an impish idol outfit with exposed thighs, a crop top with a heart-shaped cutout on her chest, and dance routines that leaned into fan service. And once the internet caught on, like Reddit, YouTube, TikTok, and other social media platforms, the chats just lit up. Fans quickly became very divided about this. Some said the criticism was overblown and just a part of the anime culture, while others felt like the design was deeply inappropriate for an underage character. Then, while all this was going on, Bones Film, the studio responsible for producing Vigilantes, quietly made their appearance. When Vigilantes premiered in 2025, fans immediately noticed Popstep's costume had been noticeably toned down for the anime. The heart-shaped chest cutout was made smaller, shimmery stockings were added to cover her legs, and the camera angles during her performances were a lot more modest in the manga. And while no public statement was made, it was clear that the studio was not taking chances. But tell me, after hearing all this, what do you think about Popstep? Do you feel like the studio should have done more to make her less sexual, or are people just blowing this out of proportion? Let me know in the comments. But since we're on this topic, there's another change the studio made that was significantly different from the manga. There was one scene in particular cut from the anime that fans were very nervous about. It's a bit too intense for this video, but you can find the scene in chapter 1 of the manga where Popstep is being threatened in the alley. Because Vigilantes was meant to be darker than the shonen My Hero, there were real concerns about how the anime would address this scene, especially since the series was scheduled to air during a late-night time slot in Japan. The studio didn't make a public statement, but the decision sparked a lot of debate. Some fans felt like it took away from the manga story, especially Popstep's character arc, but many others, especially the parents, were greatly relieved. That particular moment in the manga crossed the line for a lot of readers, and keeping it in the anime could have made it borderline unwatchable for younger teens. So while the studio didn't say much, they were very intentional with their choices. But let's be real. Popstep's controversy doesn't start or end with just her outfit and that manga scene. This isn't new. In fact, this whole thing taps into something much bigger, the idol trope in anime. And it raises the question, why does anime have so many young girls in these roles? Popstep is part of a much bigger trend in anime, especially when it comes to how young female characters are portrayed, and to understand why her design sparks so much backlash, you have to look at the wider pattern that's been playing out for years. Let's start with the idol trope. The idol genre in anime is all about music, performance, and over-the-top cuteness, but here's where it gets complicated. Many of these idol characters are really young, like middle school or early high school young, and yet they're often designed with exaggerated proportions, flirtatious stage personas, and outfits that toe the line between glamorous and high-key fan service. Popstep fits that mold almost perfectly, except Vigilantes isn't an idol anime. It's a darker superhero spin-off, so when her character appeared in a revealing outfit, fans weren't just comparing her to other characters in My Hero, they were comparing her to a whole legacy of anime's odd relationship of sexualizing young girls. Unfortunately, we've seen this happen over and over again. Momo from My Hero, a character portrayed as a genius strategist, was introduced with a hero costume that features a deep V-cut exposing a lot of cleavage, despite being 15. Then, I talk about this in my Vigilantes video, Himiko ends up completely nude after using her transformation quirk. In the anime, they had to censor it, adding a bright white overlay to her skin so it looked like a bodysuit, but in the manga, she's completely nude. Same with Midnight's outfit, by the way. Rebecca, a 16-year-old for One Piece, is literally fighting for her life in a gladiator arena while also wearing a metal bikini. So this isn't just a pop step thing. It's part of a larger conversation about how anime often walks the line, sometimes intentionally blurs it when it comes to the sexualization of very young female characters. And if you dig into fandom spaces like Reddit or Anime News Network comment threads, it's wildly divided. Some fans argue it's just a part of the Japanese culture or exaggerated costume design, while others say it feeds into lolicon tropes that anime has never really reckoned with, and that people shouldn't ignore it because it's fiction. And listen, I'm not here to give you a final answer, but I do think it's important to consider the question, where do we draw the line? When does character design become something that's no longer acceptable? Or rather, who decides what's appropriate when these shows are being watched by millions, especially young teenagers? I'd really like to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think anime is improving when it comes to how it portrays underage girls? Or is pop step just the same old? Drop a comment for me below. Okay, so we've talked about the controversy, we've talked about the character, but what about the team behind Pop Step? Vigilantes had its own theme, tone, and darker aesthetic, so while the creators have been mostly quiet, maybe one of the most interesting behind-the-scenes stories comes from Pop Step's Japanese voice actor, Kumi Hasegawa. In an interview with Fandom Wire, Hasegawa-san revealed that she auditioned horribly for Pop Step. Her interpretation was heavily critiqued by the casting team, and she spent a lot of time adjusting, thinking about how off her version of Pop Step was, only to later receive a call saying she booked the role. Thankfully, the voice actor behind Knuckle Duster had nothing but positive things to say about Hasegawa, even going as far as to say Pop Step's animation was incredible, and when he heard Hasegawa-san's voice, he thought she was the perfect person to voice the character. And real quick, before I get into some trivia about Pop Step, I just want to say how much I love the My Hero franchise. Of course it has flaws, what franchise doesn't, but I also think it helped reshape what a modern shonen series could look like. It gave us incredible character arcs, layered villains, questions about justice, and it genuinely pushed boundaries in a way that made me think about my own life. So while this show has good and bad, I absolutely recommend you give Vigilantes a shot if you haven't already. And as promised, here are a few fun trivia facts I learned about Pop Step. Pop Step's vigilante costume was directly inspired by the heroine from Shadow Lady. Shadow Lady's aesthetic was bold and very imp-like, which explains Pop Step's mischievous charm, oversized sleeves, and flashy heart cutout. When illustrator Betancourt first designed Pop Step's vigilante costume, he actually left the wings out completely. But according to commentary from the manga team, they felt like the wings were essential to her vibe and pushed for them to be added back in. Now, they're one of her most recognizable features. This is Aaliyah with Beyond the Frame. Vigilantes, are we in? Are we out? What do we think? Let me know. Pop Step isn't the only controversial character in Vigilantes. If you haven't already, then definitely check out the video I made about the controversy surrounding Vigilantes because a lot was happening behind the scenes. Like seriously, from anime censorship to the ongoing debate over whether Vigilantes should be considered true canon to the never-ending comparisons to My Hero, fans had a lot of opinions, and the Reddit threads, absolutely amazing. And as many of you already know, I'm an anime nerd with a fascination for trivia. Thanks for watching, and remember to like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Ja, mata ne!